Hello, dear viewers of our Stop the Destruction of the World program. In the last program, we were commenting about the danger of power, the evil that the power does against the people, against the nation, and finally against themselves. But this is a problem that we can verify in every human being. Because if the human being attains a powerful position, he probably will, there's a big chance that he will commit the same evil or even a worse evil than the ones he used to criticize. Therefore, in the book The Trilogical Bible from Norberto Keppe, on page 23, Keppe speaks the following. The human being chooses evil because he has a huge pleasure in attacking goodness. Not so much the pleasure of practicing evil in itself. Of course, he takes a kind of demonic pleasure when he perverts the others. Not only sexual perversion, but many other types of corruption. So the human being has a lot of pleasure in attacking goodness, in destroying the good that exists. For this reason, in the book American Multinational of Drugs, I made a study about why the economic power, the political power, the powers of nations managed to have a lot of success with the drug multinational companies, because they managed to put together a $1 trillion scheme of profit from drugs in relation to the population. Because the people think that by taking drugs, ingesting drugs, they are attacking their parents, society, attacking goodness, the good principles, the teachers, destroying and taking pleasure in doing that, to be in this delirious state of mind. This is one side. This is one aspect. On the other hand, they look for a certain type of relief from the socioeconomic power pressure over their lives. Now, who wants this to happen? Who profits from this? It's exactly this international drug cartel, not the little drug dealers that die around and hang around in the suburbs, but the big barons, the big drug barons that actually profit over the population's slavery and sickness. Therefore, I recommend parents, teachers, and even people who are interested in seeing the interest of these powers to dull our consciousness. Because the individual that looks for drugs or fails to be able to discern someone with a critical intelligence and someone who fights for his rights. So it's recommended.
That's why, Claudia, the Americans are now in Colombia. Not to help the people to avoid taking drugs, but to preserve the drug-running cartel that they have there. To guarantee this activity that brings drug profits to the United States. It is said that 20 to 25% of American money comes from drugs. For this reason, Claudia wrote this book many years ago already in France, to show that the world economy, most of it, depends on the death of drug addict victims, who keep taking money any way they possibly can, from their families, from anyone, to buy drugs. Now, let's see from where humanity's problems originate. Let's see. From whom?
It comes from Aristotle.
And what did Aristotle do? Take a look at the chart of the inversions of Aristotle. First,
it's interesting that you put there the prison of the being. First, potency and act. That everything goes from the potential to act.
That is, the individual isn't there down under, ignorant and weak, and then later he evolves to the point of becoming an incredible individual. Even Pierre Teilhard of Chardin, who worked with Christian evolutionism, thought that one day the human being would reach a state of becoming Christianized. I don't know exactly what expression they use here, that the human being would become equal to Christ. But it isn't like that. Humanity doesn't come from primitivism to progress. It comes from the great ancient civilizations and gradually turned into a primitivism that continues even today in a way that is more and more accentuated. Therefore, we didn't come from the caves. We came from the stars to the caves, exactly the opposite. So let's see, secondly, another mistake of Aristotle.
Essence and existence, two different elements in the person.
So here they made the division, as though the soul were perfect and the body sick. But it isn't like that. Every sickness comes from the person's soul, from the perturbed emotions of anger, of hatred, envy. It isn't that the person gets sick in the body. The body reflects a sickness that his soul already has. Let's see now, thirdly.
Matter and form, body and soul independent. These aspects form the wrong dialectics that Plato organized and Aristotle followed.
Would you like to see an enormous difference now? A comparison, for example, between this utterly wrong way of thinking with an incredible thinker from Italy, from the Middle Ages, Bonaventura. Let's see a painting of him and look at this work that he produced.
Everything that exists is a shadow, a trace, and an image of the Creator.
Look at how he elevates, where he places the human being. And secondly,
faith, wisdom, they are innate, being the fundamental aspects of everything.
And thirdly,
knowledge is implicit. With the existence of God, He brought fundamental solutions for human beings' knowledge.
that is, it's God who brings all of these things. Therefore, everything is made by Him, through the human being, and returns to Him. Every person who perceives who God is can't reject Him. No way. Even if one has sometimes a wrong idea, but in reality, perceiving who He is, one would never be able to reject Him. Now look, I want to show the biggest lies of the 20th century. Just look at the pompous aspect of these ideas, the biggest, enormous lies of the last century, in order to see just how we were conned, deceived, tricked in the last century, and sometimes by figureheads, figures of a high level, full of Nobel prizes, etc. Let's see the first one.
The sickness comes from the external world, Pasteur.
I think perhaps that this is the worst one of all, that sickness comes from outside. It doesn't. Not one sickness comes from the outside. There's no infection that's derived as we've always believed. It comes from the person's inner self, and from the physical aspect as well, from food, drinking, etc. But mainly, sickness comes from the human being's conduct. The human being gets sick because of the arrogance he has, because of the envy that he has, of anger, hatred. They are feelings of the soul that torment one's own life and of the society in which he lives. Let's see now, secondly, a big lie of the 20th century.
From Einstein, energy comes from matter.
My gosh, energy doesn't come from matter. Matter is already a result of energy. It's even a secondary result. So, to take energy from petroleum, gasoline for example, it's a very precious liquid that's being put into all the cars, airplanes, etc., throwing it away into the air, a very precious liquid for humanity, and creating in the process enormous hollow holes inside the earth that eventually these regions of the earth can even cave in. It's an enormous crime that is committed against this precious liquid. This idea to divide the atom, to make the atom bomb, this is wrong. The atom should never be split. So it's not by uniting atoms that will have an incredible energy, as they want to do with this cyclotron. That nonsense of spending billions of dollars to create something that will never work. And thirdly, let's see.
That life and health come from sex. Freud.
Imagine that. Well, in regards to Freud, all of us there in Vienna commented that in relation to his technique, his methodology, Freud was a fantastic genius. The method that he had created in order to reach the inner life of the human being is something incredible. And he really saw the necessity to go deeper into the spirit, into the person's life, because religions were losing their strength. Therefore, psychoanalysis, in part, has appeared to help the human being to improve his health. But not through physical elements, external things such as sex or food, alcohol, all these things. Now look in fourth place, one of the biggest lies of the 20th century.
That justice comes from the present law.
For example, regarding slander, a delinquent person, a criminal, goes to the police and makes a defamatory statement against a specific person. Now, the lawyers should require this complainant to prove that the slander is true, and not the other way around, that the slandered one has to prove that the accusation is not true. Look, one of the biggest jokes of the 20th century is to think that justice comes from the law. In the old Roman law, yes, there we could say so. The Roman law was straightforward and fixed. In this sense, there was justice. But nowadays, as it is done, there's no justice. It's a shame what is done against people who are being unjustly attacked by the completely crazy ones on this earth. Let's see now, fifthly.
That the politician speaks the truth. Machiavelli.
Machiavelli has already pointed this out, that to be a politician, one has to be a liar, because the people want to be deceived. Well, people are inverted, right? So the people sometimes choose a politician, vote for him, and afterwards, when he gets to the top, because of all of his lies, deceiving people, then there from the top, with all force, he starts attacking the population. One of the founding fathers of the United States said, if power is against people, it must be taken away. This abuse of power cannot exist. If there is a law against the people, then this law is false. Look at the importance of this. This is the point.
We'll be right back.